and welcome to the RuneScape Skilling Talk. I'm on Timbo.
And I'm on Ryan.
And here we're here to talk to you today about the next 5 years of skilling. So, what does RuneScape Skilling look like in 2023? We sat down, myself and Mod Ryan, the Skilling Council, a number of other different moderators, and we've come up with a plan that we think is going to make skilling absolutely awesome for the next 5 years. We want to fix a lot of problems, we're going to add a lot of cool stuff, and generally we want to bring skilling up to a level that is very similar to combat. We want to make skilling more exciting, more worthwhile, more interesting, and that is what hopefully we'll present to you today. How we're going to achieve that is through these nice little points on the screen right now. First of all, we have diversification of skilling. What that means is that you shouldn't choose what skill you want to train, you should choose how you want to train that skill as well. There should be different methods of how you want to train a skill depending on your needs, whether you want XP, GP, or you just want to AFK. Next up, we have skilling endgame. Combat has a fantastic endgame. You look at combat, you look at raids, you look at bosses, Telos, Warden, Daredevil, there's tons and tons of content in combat. There's none of that in skilling. We have skill pets, there's not much there. Next up, we have skill reworks, and of course, a brand new skill. We want to have a number of skill reworks in the next couple of years, and we want to release a brand new skill in the next 5 years. Of course, we also have adding key milestones. Key milestones is what I consider to be things like overloads, Pack-Yats, Steel Titans. There is tons and tons of skills in the game that don't have those key milestones, and we want to add them. Every single skill by 2023 should have something like overloads. Of course, we want to bring back the achievement to skills. We want to have memories of skills again. We want to bring back that sense of achievement, and we want to bring back emote blocks. We want people to be that excited about seeing skill capes and seeing sort of different achievements you've done in skilling. And last of all, adding 120s. We're not taking away your capes. We're not going to do that yet. But we want to bring the idea to you guys. We want to bring the idea to you guys about 120 skills. 120 Slayer didn't go down very well, but we want to talk to you, we want to understand why it went wrong, what you guys want for 120 skills, and how we can go forward in making more 120 skills in the next 5 years. So first up, diversification of skilling. Now, as I mentioned, what I mean by diversification of skilling is being able to sort of have this sliding scale between experience, GP, and intensity. By intensity, I mean sort of how much you need to pay attention to the screen. So if you think of like waterfall fishing, it's very AFK. Barbarian fishing is not so AFK, it requires a lot of intensity. So we believe in these 3 slides. First up, we have high GP, high intensity, relatively okay experience. Next up, the opposite. Lots of experience, very little GP, but high intensity as well. And then, of course, if you want to AFK, you should be able to AFK in the skill as well, and get a decent amount of experience, a decent amount of GP, but you're not really paying attention to the screen, you're chatting to your mates, you're watching Netflix or something like that. When we asked you this year in the survey about what you wanted to see, you came up with this. And it's very clear to us that diversification of skilling is dear to your hearts as it is to ours. We want there to be tons and tons of different methods for every single skill, that you just don't have to rely on AFKing a certain skill with high XP or high GP. We want there to be different ways to train every single skill in the game. And we want to make sure that is available to you in the next 5 years. Of course, our existing content doesn't fare so well.
So I just want to break it down for you a little. So we have multiple methods in the game, and we, as designers and developers, like to call them lean forward and lean back gameplay. So lean forward gameplay is something which some of the veterans in the room may be more familiar with, such as power mining or power fishing. Something where you put a lot of work into that dropping aspect of like trying to get the best XP rate you can. Whereas a lean back method is something more casual, as Timbo mentioned. Say you're just fishing or cutting trees, like yew trees, and then taking a log to the bank. It's a lot more lean back. You don't have to put too much work into it. But we want to, so they're the 2 examples. You should see on screen right now what is waterfall and barbarian fishing. And you may notice that when we released waterfall fishing, we actually created an issue, which is something we're happy to admit and we want to talk about. Because over the past few years, you guys as players said, you want more methods of training that give you more XP, you also said you want more methods of training that were more lean back, so you can do other things at the same time while playing RuneScape. Now, we tried to tackle both of these issues at the same time with waterfall fishing, and this has fundamentally caused us an issue. And that issue is that the intensity for waterfall fishing is very low, while it is also the most rewarding. I'm sure if you turned to the person next to you and said, what should I train, where should I train fishing at a high level, the chances are you're all going to say waterfall fishing. This isn't what we want from a skill. We want you to be able to say, do I want to go make money today? Do I want to go get XP? Or should I try my hardest to put as much effort into playing today? And that sort of thing. So as the chart shows, barbarian fishing used to be one of the good methods of fishing, where you would catch your fish and then drop them. Since waterfall fishing was released, this is no longer really a viable method. Waterfall beats that, while also it's just not as intensive. So you're not really rewarded anymore for putting the effort in. Over the years, though, we have other skills that have similar issues, but we have actually resolved some of them. Runecrafting is a good one to talk about. Once upon a time, the original release of runecrafting, it was all about just running runes. Crafting runes on altars, making money, gaining XP. Back in 2012, I believe, we released RuneSpan. RuneSpan, really interesting one, because it changed the way in which runecrafting worked. It ultimately made it so that the skill was more lean back, more AFK, but it also rewarded you quite greatly in terms of XP. At the time, for any of you that may have been around, you may have heard talks about RuneSpan, and some people disagreed with it because of how it affected the skill. In 2015, we released the Demonic Skull. For those of you that aren't aware, it's an item that gives you bonus XP when crafting runes through the abyss. And if you look at this chart, what releasing that actually did was, it made rune running a viable thing to do again. It made rune running viable for XP. It made it also viable for money. And we feel as if this is a good way of doing something where to run runes through the abyss, it requires a lot of effort. It's not something you can easily do and look away from the screen. There's also the added effect of running through the wilderness, which of course isn't safe, but we don't want to get too much into risk in terms of skill. But this is one of our good examples of something that over the years we've obviously identified, tried to find ways in which you as a player have a choice, and we want you to feel empowered to make that choice when you play RuneScape. We want you to feel like if you really want to put a lot of effort in today, you will be rewarded for it. At the same time, if you just want to come on and chill, talk to friends, we still want you to gain something from it, but we want it to be that option where you know if you want to put the effort in, you'll get the trade-off. So yeah, that's diversification of skilling in a nutshell. We will take questions at the end for any questions on that topic, but would like to move on to something we want to call the skilling endgame. So what is the skilling endgame? That is a very good question. We ourselves honestly don't really know. It's one of those things where if you look at combat, there's a lot of things. As Timbo mentioned originally at the start of this presentation, you have timed competitions, you have amazing feats like Daredevil and Defeater title. You've now got the boss collection log. There's endless things you can do at an endgame. And ultimately, there are endless bosses which you work on killing for either money or to try and compete with friends, those sorts of things. We don't have that in skilling. Arguably, the only thing we really have in skilling at the endgame is milestones, which are all based around XP. People will tell you, what are you working on? I'm working on my 99. And what are you working on it for? Well, my skill cape or my max cape. These are all XP-focused goals. So ultimately, once you reach 99 in that skill, sometimes you don't train that skill anymore. You don't use it for anything. And we want to make skills feel useful, especially at the end game, because you have acquired all that experience to become a master of that skill. We want it to feel beneficial to you, whether that's in I could throw this around as the idea of like a skilling boss. It's a controversial topic because what would you do for a skilling boss? But it's one of those things where it's an end game piece of content that we could try and tie your skills into. At the same time, we'd like to do more things like more achievements, like focus around skills, and like ways in which you can utilize the knowledge you have of the skill to, of course, obtain those achievements, and potentially the idea of more collection systems. Of course, we have skill pets, which is great, but it's an RNG style of reward. We want to try and add more things that are based purely on skill themselves, so you can utilize that knowledge.
For this section, really, it is up to you guys. Skilling in-game is something that's very important to us, and we definitely it's high up in our plan. It's the reason why we want to talk about it in a second. But it is ultimately up to you guys what we come up with. We think it's very important You guys think it's very important. Skilling is a very important part of your day-to-day gameplay, and like getting high skills is cool, and getting skill points is cool, but there's nothing really to do with those skills. So we really want to hear from you guys in the next in the next couple of months, really, and then help us build what a skilling in-game is, and then get it out there, and in 2023 we can look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember when Timbo stood on that stage and said, skilling in-game is going to be a thing. And now I'm playing all this different bits of content and different skills that are really tying in and making that skilling endgame that we really want to get a hold of.
Yeah, so as Tim said, it is a big thing for us, second on the list, but we do really need your feedback on it. Endgame isn't an easy thing to sort of tackle, especially when ultimately skills in RuneScape, you do most of the work at the beginning, and we just don't have anything at the end. So yeah, that's us for skilling endgame.
Next up for us is skill reworks. Now, as again in the survey done this year, skill reworks are a big deal to you. Therefore, they are a big deal to us as well. We know that you want old skills to be reworked. We know that you guys really, really want to see your favorite skills, those skills you know that are no longer relevant, those skills that have really rubbish training methods or don't have really many options or rewards or those sorts of things. And as you've proven in the survey, you would rather much see skill reworks than new skills. Now, of course, 5 years is a long time, so we're going to do both. But skill reworks is important. You told us how many skill reworks you would like to see for a brand new skill. And that sort of really helped us inform sort of how many skill reworks before we should even think about starting a new skill. And that's why skill reworks is a more higher priority to us than creating a new skill. Now, of course, we all know and love mining and smithing. Mining and smithing is a topic that has been sort of bandied around the last couple of years, but I can tell you, after months of talk, polls, dev blogs, dev diaries, we do have a team right now at Jagex who is working on mining and smithing. They've heard what you want, they've read everything, they've scrolled the forums, Twitter, Reddit, in-game, they've understand what you want. And you've told us defiantly in the poll that you want a full skill rework and you want it done properly. And that is absolutely what we're going to deliver. Other than that, construction rework. Construction rework is something that comes up a lot. You might remember the Summer Summit a little while ago, we showed Mod Doctor's prototype. That was really awesome. We love the idea of doing construction rework, and we want to do one in the next 5 years. We want there to be a construction rework finished and done in the next 5 years by 2023. Whether or not it's like Mod Doctor's prototype that you saw, sort of screenshots and video of, or maybe it's something more like the aquarium like on screen, where your whole house is sort of, you can place down different areas, you can rotate them, you can basically have complete freedom of your house. That is what we want to see from construction in the next couple of years. Whether or not we do more, that is entirely up to you guys. There are tons and tons of skills out there that aren't very useful. Agility, like crafting, like there's all these rubbish skills that don't really have much of a point to them. Their training methods are old. They don't have a point, especially for agility.
Well, fire making.
Fire making is another absolutely rubbish skill. So let us know what you want to see reworked. I mean, as I said, this plan is as much as yours as it is ours. It's very important that we listen to you guys. We've not always done that in the past, but we think it's very important to listen to what you guys hear and what sort of skill reworks you want to do in the future. Of course, there wouldn't be a skilling talk without talking about a new skill.
So, first of all, we're not announcing a new skill.
We are.
So, we're not announcing the specifics of a new skill. We just want to talk to you about the idea of a new skill. As we said, this comes after skill reworks in our list of things we want to talk about. So, skill reworks are our priority right now. So that mining and smithing and whatever the potential other one we could potentially do is. But a new skill, like endless possibilities. A new skill is one of those things that internally we talk about a lot. You know, RuneScape's been around for over 15 years now, and there's a lot that's gone into the game. So when we talk about new skills, we always try to think about like how can we fit a bit of content like as a whole new skill into our game. It's not an easy thing to do. We got to make sure that we find a nice way in which we can introduce that skill, whatever it may be, so that it doesn't make you feel like every other skill has some aspect to that. So what I mean by that is, let's take the famous sailing as an example. For any of you in here, you may know sailing was a joke as a skill once upon a time, but if we were to turn sailing into a skill, like what would we do for it? You know, you could maybe sail out to the seas and find treasure, that sort of thing. However, is that too close to Uncharted Isles for the art? At the same time, what if you could customize your boat? Is that too similar to ports? So we have to think a lot about this sort of thing and where it interacts with other skills and content to try and figure out what we want to do. So as I said, Timbo and I have these discussions a lot. There's plenty of others. We always talk about new skills. Are there really cool things we could do? And we've spoken about skills like necromancy. Would it be cool to raise the army of the dead? I would. Any spoilers? Anyone not done any quests? Well, spoiler alert. Maybe you could raise Guthics from the dead? No. But ultimately, necromancy could be a cool thing. Could it be a cool skill? But at the same time, is it too close to something? These are all great things that, in an idea as a concept, but a new skill isn't something we rush. We have to think about it in detail. Another skill idea that's floated around, probably one of my more favorite ones at the time, is the idea of archaeology. How cool would it be if you can actually uncover content, within the game? You might uncover an agility course, a long-lost agility course, or you find ancient relics that unlock new prayers, the Temple of Seniston as an example. Seniston?
Yeah.
The temple, yeah.
Seniston.
That's one. I'm not in the law talk, I don't know how to pronounce these things. But yeah, you can unlock, a new prayer book. So these are the cool things that you could go into that skill. Now ultimately with a new skill, we want to make sure that it follows our rules of skill diversity. So we have learned a lot in the past about new skills, but we also asked you a bunch of questions in the big survey. And ultimately we asked, thank you. So when would you like a new skill? And as you can see, roughly you guys were looking at it within the next couple of years. Of course, a new skill takes some time to not only design, but make. So this is a guideline of sort of things that we may want to do, skill rework's being a priority. Another question we asked you, which is a really interesting one, is what type of skill would you want the next skill to be? Now, you can see here, so you wanted something completely new and a support or cross-skilling. In that survey, something completely new said, example, dungeoneering. I'm going to talk about dungeoneering in a moment because that's a really interesting skill to talk about. But there was one more question that we put in the survey, which was, what is your favorite skill? Now, Slayer is way up there as it was the favorite skill. You can see massively. However, second skill was dungeoneering. Some of you guys actually approached me today to tell me your favorite skill is dungeoneering, and you said it sounds like an unpopular opinion, but it's honestly not. Dungeoneering is an interesting skill in that it's a really interesting skill. When we released it, I can't remember the year we released it, but we released it quite a long time ago. 2010? It really shook the game. It was completely different to what you guys were used to. It really wasn't like any other skill. You can look at something like fishing, woodcutting. They are similar skills, or mining. You gather a resource, and then there's a second skill that works with that. Whereas dungeoneering was completely different. It really changed it. Of course, we have the joke occasionally where people call it a minigame. Argument's sake.
It is a minigame.
But yeah, don't say that. But yeah, dungeoneering is a skill. And it's just one of those interesting ones where we learn a lot from it. And at first, the community really didn't like the skill. But ultimately, over the years, people have grown more towards it. It does a lot of cool things that we'd like to take into new skills. When I look at skills like divination, it's quite a linear skill. Ultimately, you get from level 1 to 10, you move on, you go to somewhere else, you go from level 10 to 20. It's a very linear skill. You move between the craters. You never have a reason to go back. Something that we call crinkliness in design is the idea that a skill has the reason to sort of go all over the place. A good example of this is, say, woodcutting. At level 30 you can cut willows, right? I think 45 you can cut maples. But is it a good idea to cut maples at 45? Not really, because you cut them too slowly. They don't give you as much XP because of that. So you stay at willows. You stay at willows to, say, 60, you can now cut yews. Now you have the option of, do I want more XP still? You stay at willow. There's that idea of whether you should go back and at what time do you go back to stuff because you're now better at it, you can do it faster. We want to include this more in skills. As we said, we want you to have the choice. We want you to feel like you are empowered to make the decision of how you want to play the game. And we want to do that with our new skill. Because in my opinion, divination doesn't really do that. We tell you what to do and you go there and do it. You don't have much of a choice for that. That being said, new skill, really cool idea. Something that we are looking into and thinking about and talking about all the time. All you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, key milestones. So key milestones, I think, are something that's very incredibly important to skills. Something that really drives you to get to that 94 or 96 herblore, really pushes you to level summoning, get familiars, get bobs, get that spirit terror bird back when run energy was a thing. Like, they were really exciting milestones for me to go and level up for. Like, something you really target. I mean, a lot of people in his room will have 92 prayer or 96 prayer, just so you can get Soul Splitter Turmoil. I mean, there are very awesome key milestones in the skills that you level for and get very excited about. So that is what we want to try and bring to many more skills in the game. If you look at this slide, we have a comparison of what skills actually have key milestones in the game right now. Thankfully, with Invention Batch 2, we actually released a sort of key milestone for machines. Machines are awesome, they're really cool. But there are tons and tons of skills on the right-hand side that doesn't have a key milestone. And we think that is an absolute shame and something we need to rectify in the next 5 years. Every single skill should have a use and have something that really excites you to level it up and have a key milestone. For example, like, let's look at fire making. Imagine if you could like burn incense that gives you buffs around when you're skilling or doing combat. Or for example, maybe if you could have untradeable food from cooking, or maybe even just like some sort of skill support items from Hunter that you level up and you hunt a new creature, and it now benefits you in many more skills and helps you get that sort of different XP and that different diversity. Key milestones is something that is very important to us and something that we definitely want to do, and every skill by 2023 will have a key milestone. That is an absolute promise that you cannot take away from me. That will happen. But key milestones, yeah, again, very important to us, very important to you. There are tons and tons of skills out there that just don't have anything that's worthwhile, and we want to try and rectify that. Next up, Ryan.
What?
Do you remember 5 years ago when I asked you to see your remote?
Well, at the Grand Exchange?
At the Grand Exchange, yeah.
So, he once upon a time, 5 years ago, he asked me if he wanted to see my remote. Do we see that happen much anymore? Not really, There's a lot of
me, by the way.
Oh, is that you? Yeah, suddenly got really loud. It's one of those things where, once upon a time you used to say to your friends, I really want to see your remote. We don't see that anymore. The last time we... Echoing, sorry. The last time we saw that was, say, 5 years ago. And it's one of those things that we want to bring back. So, I have a lot of memories of RuneScape. I remember the days where I just got 92 magic, and I had to pot up to try and cast Ice Barrage on my brother in Castle Wars. It's one of those cool memories that, it sticks with me. I've got plenty of those sorts of things. Do you have
well,
any
I mean, for me, like, completing Richard the Mage route for me was the absolute highlight of my career. Like, nothing necessarily to do with skills, but I absolutely loved it. I can remember every single moment. I remember the music, I can remember where I was, I remember what clothes I was wearing. I mean, like, there's just all vivid memories that we have of RuneScape. That is something we really want to bring back into skilling. And also to RuneScape in general. Skilling more so, because skilling doesn't have that sense of achievement. I got 5 99s last Double XP weekend, and while that was really cool, I didn't have any 99 parties. Who's had a 99 party? When's the last time you had a 99 party?
So, you should have waited until today, because we're going to have a giant 99 party later today.
Oh, nice. Nice plug. Achievement party.
Thanks.
But I mean, we want to try and bring the sense of achievement. When you're going for a goal, you feel really proud about it, your friends are really happy, they message you grats, you have a party, everyone gets drunk on wizard mind bombs, that sort of thing. Like, we want to bring those sorts of memories back to RuneScape and bring that sense of achievement back to skills.
I'm sure if you guys all turn to the person next to you, I'm sure you have many memories of which you could tell them about the game. This is something, of course, we just want to create more of. And one of the big things that I like to think about in RuneScape is if we compare combat to skilling. We have this thing called the wow factor, is what I like to call it. In combat, you have a lot of these things which you get like wow moments. Whether you're on a Slayer task, you have your common drops, as represented by, I think, my bones and rune plate body, but you get your common drops. You then have your off drops, like rare drop table, the idea of Serenic Scales, in this example, Rulers. You then also have your other items, Clue Scrolls, Effigies. These are all really cool things that you get. I'm going to go through the whole chart because combat has a lot. You've ultimately got Slayer items if you do it on a Slayer task. Some of those items are really useful, they make a lot of money. I know a lot of guys today said to me they enjoy Slayer because it makes money. And then you have your boss drops, your big drops, they make a lot of money as well. Of course, at the end of the scale, you've got the elusive Hazelmere's Ring, which is probably the biggest wow moment you have in game right now, and also the boss pets. However, let's take a look at skilling. Pretty empty, right? There's honestly not any real moments of wow when you're skilling. If you're cutting a yew tree, you are simply cutting a yew tree. There's no like situation where suddenly something happens. And this is something we want to bring back into skills. So ultimately, we want to fill these gaps. We want to make it so that when you're skilling, and you're skilling with your friends or whatever it is that you're doing, suddenly you jump out of your seat. I want to see people jump out of their seats again and get that moment of like, this is really cool. I just got something really cool. You get your broadcast, your friends start messaging you.
Wait, didn't you have that moment this week, right?
Yeah, earlier this week I got Rue. And I didn't even know. I got the Rue pet and my friend said to me on Discord and I was instantly like shouting.
You went crazy.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where I've been wanting it for a while and I got it. And as you can see, skill pets is one of those things. However, it is one of the only things. So ultimately, in the next 5 years, we plan to fill this. We just want you to feel that when you're skilling, you can get stuff out of it beyond what the core aspect of like a gathering skill is. Saying this, we also want to make skilling worthwhile again for making money. We want you to be able to make good money from skilling. It's one of those things we lost over the years. And ultimately, people, as I said, people say Slayer makes a lot of money. We want skilling to have that aspect. At the same time as, still leaving combat in a good state. We don't want to take away what combat gives you from bosses and that sort of thing, but skilling needs to make money again. There are methods that I'm sure some of you are aware, maybe it's like divination can make money, or you can do things like tan hides on a portable. There are ways of making money through skilling, but we want to make more of them and make it an actual option for you to come on and say, I want to make money today, and you have a skilling method you can do. So yeah, that's what we want to do with essentially bringing the big wow factor back to RuneScape for skilling. It's something like really strong to me, massive skiller myself, and it's just something I really want to do. I want to be jumping out of my seat. I want to be doing that,
like that.
Right? Beg it. Boss drop maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Right. Let's leave them alone. Next up, don't kill me. 120 skills. Now, of course, 120 skills has been a bit of a controversial topic. Of course, we released a 120 Slayer this year with Menethos. It's safe to say it didn't go down very well, and we know that, and we're sort of trying to learn from it. What we feel sort of was lacking from Slayer was that it wasn't really full, the skill wasn't full. The vast majority of 99 to 120, that's a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of time, a huge amount of investment, and there really wasn't that reward or that extra opportunity or difference in training the skill. It's something we want to learn from and something we want to go forward with, and obviously we want to fill out Slayer eventually going forward. But we want to talk to you guys about the ideas of 120 skills. Of course, at the minute we have the Masterscapes. They're really awesome, but they don't actually go to we don't actually have any of those skills go to 120 yet. So we asked you guys what you thought in the survey. You guys told us this. It was very interesting to us that actually the vast majority of people do want 120 skills. They might not like it because they lose the comp, but they do. People are interested in 120 skills, but most of you are interested only if we do it right, and if we do it on the right skill. So that is why it's on the sort of the last part of our plan. It's the sort of the ending of our plan. This, more so than any other one, is up to you guys. Let us know what you want to go to 120, how you want us to go to 120, and what should be in 99 to 120 in those skills. As you said, we think it's very important that there's something different to do, something like maybe it's a completely different new training method. It should be full on launch. There shouldn't be any gaps. You should be able to do something from 99 all the way to 120. We wanted to have the skill diversity in those skills as well. Make sure that you're actually doing different things to 120. It's not just high intensity or low intensity or all GP. And we want to make sure that, 120 skills feel natural. We feel that it's sort of an inevitability with the way sort of skills are going. Lots more people are getting maxed, lots more people are getting like 200 mils and 99s and virtual 120s. And we feel we need to approach this topic with you guys for the next 5 years. Make sure we're all happy what we're going to do next. Make sure we're all sort of sorted and we're happy and it's all been finally signed off by every single player in the game. That sort of thing. We want to try and make sure that 120 skills isn't this sore topic that was sort of like players go, oh, not 120 skills, I don't want to do that anymore. But actually they're really excited about them. They really want to go forward and do 120 skills. Because we think it's really awesome, we think it's really cool. There's tons and tons of content we could do from 99 to 120. I want to make sure that you guys are happy and excited and with us doing that same as well.
So, I just want to add, it's one of those things where, like you said, we're not saying we're going to do it by any means, and we definitely wouldn't do all skills in 5 years. I really can't see that happening. But depending on the skill, it needs to be the right skill. We have to take this into account sometimes when we think about adding new content. If we were to add a new familiar that was better than the Steel Titan, realistically, what level do we put it at? Right now, we'd have to shove it in at level 99. And we don't want to do that for the future of the game because it's just not healthy. We'll get into the realms of, in a couple of years' time, it's like, why do we unlock everything at 99? It doesn't make much sense. So ultimately, this is where that room between 99 and 120 becomes useful. I just want to reiterate something Timber said as well. We also want to make it feel like the skill kind of changes with past 99. Like, you are a master. Like, you shouldn't feel as if you're doing the same thing necessarily. If we can create new ways in which that skill benefits you, or how you use it, how you train it, like, we want to do that. So this is one of those topics as well that, when we get back in next week, when we get back to work in the next week, talk to us about it. Tell us these things. Like, we want to compile all your feedback on what you want to do with this sort of thing, because ultimately, we want to make the best game for you.
And that is sort of the end part of our 5-year plan. But to wrap it all up, we have a video to show you about sort of the very first skilling update that sort of encompasses our 5-year plan that will be coming out very soon. It's called
deep sea fishing. So this is a very, very early prototype of a concept of fishing you may be able to see. So fishing as a skill is ultimately a lean back method. You click one fishing spot which moves every couple of minutes. This example you may see, a fishing spot is moving every second. There's a bunch of fishing spots available, and the player is clicking on them and turning around and clicking on all these different spots. It's way more interactive, way more lean forward gameplay, and it's of course going to be more rewarding. Now, in this example, the player is turning around, as I said, trying to see where the spots are and clicking on them. You may not be able to see this, but the player is also building up the idea of a bonus. And what we were talking about with this is, the longer you can stay engaged, we want to feel like we can reward you for that. So while he's constantly catching fish as quickly as possible, he's gaining a bonus. Now, we want to try and add more D&Ds to the skill itself. We don't feel, this is something, another topic of where we don't want you to feel like you have to walk away from a skill to go and take part in a D&D for that skill. In this example, it's similar to fish flingers that maybe a giant fish could spawn. And you can just interact with it there and then. It gives you a bit of lean back gameplay, so you can take a break, but it's rewarding. We're trying to encompass all these ideas together and make skilling, a variety of it, and make it more diverse. That's deep sea fishing, very early prototype. Of course,
it's a very early work in progress prototype, but we wanted to show you something exclusive. There'll be more about in the RuneScape reveals later. And that is the end of our talk. If anyone would like to, if anyone would like to have any questions, please put your hand up and someone will give you a mic.
Maybe, yes. There's a mic. It's also really hot on the stage.
Hello. Well, so looking into combining things like 120 skills and reworks, what are your thoughts on kind of working those two things in together? Like something such as construction, for example. You have that reward space between 99 and 120, which you said is a lot of experience. So that's where you could kind of build in the rework of it, rather than keeping those as separate ideas.
I mean, so ultimately, if you guys want us to combine 120 skills and skill reworks, we will absolutely do that. If we come to making the construction rework and you guys are like, actually, I wouldn't mind this being 120, and then telling us what 120 means for you guys, then absolutely we'll do that. These things aren't separate or compartmented, whatever that word is, sort of put them to chunks. They are sort of, this is our plan for the next 5 years. We want to do all of them. And if some of them combine together, that's absolutely fine.
I was wondering whether or not you're going to plan or add any social skilling activities in general, because every time I get online and tell my friends let's do something together, it's either XP waste or combat.
Really good point.
We actually forgot to mention that.
We actually did forget to mention that. So using deep sea fishing as an example, something we do want to, I'm just going to extend my talk now, something we did want to do, with skills over the next 5 years is stop segregating players. I don't know, I'm sure maybe you all agree, but we do a lot of, if you're, between 1 and 50 fishing, you might be over here, and if you get to 90 fishing, you spend the other, you're on the other side of the map. We want to stop doing this and try more for an area where you can fish, and you as a mid-range fisher, you can see those people that are high-range fishers next to you, fishing next to you. So you can interact with people in that skill, and they wouldn't say XP waste, hopefully. At the same time, it's that idea that we also just don't want to be putting you in what we call instances. So Uncharted Isles is a good example. You go away to an island on your own. Wouldn't it be cool if you could all go to an island together, you know, that sort of concept. So that is definitely something we are thinking about. And we were supposed to say in the talk.
Thanks for reminding us.
Yes.
So I had a question about construction. So you're talking briefly about the construction update, like reworking a little bit, and it seems like you have some cool ideas for how you change your house and everything. The only thing is, though, is currently I, as a player, don't ever go to my house because there's really not any reason to go there after you've unlocked the aquarium and everything. Like after it's all built, I hardly have a reason to go there. So will you guys be looking in more reasons of why we'd actually want to go to our house?
Yeah, there will be a key milestone in construction by 2023. Plug. But yeah, no, to answer your question properly, yeah, I mean, a construction rework would probably involve a complete rework of the player and house. Make sure there's a reason to go there. Make sure you want to check in with your house. Maybe maybe the Gilded Altar was a good idea. Have other skills you can do inside your house. It's not just Gilded Altar. Make the teleports relevant again. Those sorts of things. So absolutely, yeah, that'll be part of construction rework.
With 120 Slayer, one of the things that was sort of advertised with it was becoming a Slayer Master by filling the Codex. Would it be possible to get a temple tracking / managing miscellanea minigame where you become the Slayer Master of NPCs who would go out, do a Slayer task, come back, and you'd get Slayer points or a portion of their drops? Something along those lines?
Yes, so be your own Slayer Master, as you said, it was mentioned. I know that Mod Days talks about the idea of being your own Slayer Master a lot. He really liked that idea. I don't want to speak for him and say that he wants to do it still, but I'm pretty sure he has a high interest in it. It is a cool concept, right? And that really cements what we were saying about post 99. We want you to feel like a master. I know that Mod Days is thinking about it. Maybe I'll try and get him to clarify something when we're back at work.
If you find Mod Days or come to the Combat Showcase later on and ask a question, you get more information there.
With regards to bring back social skilling, how are you going to cope with stealing resources and limited resources in spots?
So, is this in regards to resources?
Social Slayer. Social skilling.
Is it in regards to like a resource? You don't want to fight for resources, is that what we mean? Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah. So back in the original days of RuneScape, there was a lot of that. Like you're fighting for your ores, and you may get into arguments, tell someone to hot world. We do want to take that away a bit. Like obviously we have in the past with various things, but we would want you to feel like you can train together without the worry that you're ruining someone else's training by taking part in like stealing their rock or stealing their thing. That is like one of the top things we want to do. We want you to feel like you can enjoy playing the game whilst playing with your friends and not saying, I don't want to waste XP, so I'm not going to play with you.
And fix Saren Stones so that doesn't happen there as well.
Saren Stones, yeah.
So I got a question about the economics in skilling. Currently it is more revenue if you're doing PVM. For example, magic logs, you do AOD more than you could ever cut with wood cutting. So how about money making with actual skilling?
Yeah, I mean, our plan has always been to remove skilling drops from PVM. I mean, it is a big task and it is a big ask. Part of the problem with mining and smithing is removing alcohols from drop tables. But yeah, we definitely want to do that in the future. I mean, killing stuff for magic logs just makes no sense. Just the people who are chopping magic logs should be getting magic logs themselves. And they should be the main supply of magic logs in the game. I don't disagree with you. How we go about it and when we go about it is the problem things. But we're always thinking about it. New drop tables have very limited resources on them. So we're trying to sort of retroactive for new drop tables, but also sort of try and think about how we can mass remove them from other drop tables as well.
With the idea of necromancy, I think it'd be a good way if you made it an elite skill with magic, summoning, and slayer, and then after you kill the slayer creature, you could harness its soul, and then that's how you sort of build the creatures that you could summon with necromancy up. Just so it was an elite skill, plus it would interact with slayer and other creatures.
So that's a really interesting point. That is something we have discussed in the basis that, as I mentioned, when we think about new skills, we have to think about where they interact with other skills. Slayer Codex is a perfect example of essentially catching a monster. And in this example, it'd be like, what if instead of putting it in your dungeon, you could summon it back out, like that? So that is something we also think about, is how to tie the skills together. Because as the survey said, cross-skilling is something that you guys want. We want to try and find ways to make cross-skilling feel like it fits very well. Of course, invention is semi-cross-skilled because you train it with other skills, not all skills. But that's what we want to try and get that feel. So that is one of those sorts of things that we do think about.
What are your thoughts on XP scaling to the level as opposed to like unlocking things at a certain level and then it being the set amount of XP the whole time?
I have a personal view on it. So I think there are some places that works really well. At the same time, we don't want content to feel like it would never change. So you could stay in one place forever and the XP would scale based on your level. At the same time, there are definitely some methods we've added in the past. Can't name any off the top of my head, but that do actually scale with your level because it is a nice way of doing things. I think that if we put both together, the idea that we try and do that, but not for 1 to 99, there's like level bandings, that works very well. And it is something we do think about. Yeah. We have a lot of conversation about RuneScape. We love RuneScape.
What's your opinion on high-intensity artisan skilling, like smithing house, artisan workshop? Can this be expanded to maybe fletching and have manual fletching arrows and darts, and like in old school RuneScape? And also, can we have 120 all milestone kit? Thank you.
I mean, where it's appropriate, we'll definitely look at adding things like Artisan's Workshop. I think Artisan's Workshop is a great example of skill diversity in smithing. Rune Ceremonial Swords is absolutely the best experience for smithing right now. But it's very intense, there's a lot of clicking, sometimes you fail, it's not exactly very AFK. But actually inside Artisan's Workshop is also the Burial Armor, which is very AFK. So if there are places where we think it's appropriate, or we get a really good player idea, we will add those in the future for sure.
Yeah, it's worth, a lot of the 5-year plan revolves around, we want you guys to help us. So ultimately, if you have ideas, tell us. Like, we play so much RuneScape, we talk about so much RuneScape, just talk to us about it, and we will help you make the game that you want to play.
I can't hear you, buddy.
Can't hear you now. I can't hear you still. You have to come.
When you do skill reworks, do you put thought into tick manipulation methods, or do you just against it? Do you just not think about that at all?
So we don't put them in as such. However, it's an interesting one because there is an element of, it's a hard thing to talk about because ultimately I can use an example of Hunter. It's probably a good example of a tick manipulation, as you mentioned. It does add more intensity to it, but not in a way in which we designed it to be. However, we can tell that players enjoy putting that more effort in to benefit more from it, and it perfectly explains what we want to do with skills, which is more intense, more rewarding. So ultimately, we would want to try and do more of that without it being in that sort of way, if that makes sense.
You guys are planning for like the next 5 years of skilling. How are you going to take into account the amount of people that already have 99 or 120 that's going to go up in the next 5 years as well?
What's the question? So skills, of course, those that already have 99s, 120s, with the 5-year plan, of course, things that will change. Is the question of what we're going to do for the people that currently have those? Do you have a...
Well, I mean, they already have them, so they're welcome to use them. We're not going to force you to grind 400 hours if you're already 120 like mining or 120 like construction. We're going to make you redo those hours again. You'll have access to all the methods. You'll probably have to do a little bit of legwork to get understand what the new method is, for example, and to try out all the new methods. But we're not going to take anything away or sort of make you grind many, many hours to try and catch up with other people who aren't already 120 or 99. That's it. That's it. Well, last one.
Last year, you guys talked about elite skills. Are you guys thinking of doing anything more with elite skilling?
Definitely in the future. I don't think the next skill will be an elite skill. I think invention, an elite skill sort of had a bit of it was a bit cool, a bit weird, people didn't really understand it or didn't really get it. But we really like the idea of elite skills. Like someone mentioned, like necromancy could have magic, prayer, and summoning all mixed together. That sounds awesome. And we love the idea of elite skills, but we're going to have it on the back burner for now, and sort of maybe the skill after this one will be an elite skill.
I imagine as well, it's the sort of thing where I think we would design a skill, and depending on how that design turns out, we may think more about whether it should be an elite or not, because sometimes ultimately an idea, a seed of an idea, we work on that idea, and ultimately that's when we like, oh, actually this ties really well, it starts that sort of like train of like ideas that flow from it. So a skill could start as just a skill to 99, and then we may decide that it should be an elite down the line once we design more to it. It's hard to say right now, but as Tim has said, there are positives and negatives to make an elite skill right now.
And that is the end of our talk. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Myself and Mod Ryan will be in the Alcarid chill area, which we call the bar, 3 p.m. if you want to come talk to us, have any more questions. Of course, you can just see our backs and know who we are. Thank you very much.